Hello guys, I'm back again. And remember the last time I told you about the Iluyomade's issue with the Redeemed Christian Church? Now I have an update and it is only right that I should let you know as promised. And in order to give you the full details, I have a guest in the house who is going to be sharing his own thoughts packed with facts on the matter. Without wasting time, I would let him introduce himself. Sir, can the audience meet you please?
My name is Dr. Oladipo. I'm the managing editor of the Eagle Online.
It is lovely to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Now, if you do not already know, let me give you a brief rundown on the issue. If you remember earlier in the year, a plane crashed this year that claimed the life of Herbert Wigwe, who was the former CEO of Access Bank, alongside his wife and his son on the 9th of February. And on the 20th of February, Pastor Iluyomade's wife, Pastor Mrs. Siju Iluyomade, threw a lavish birthday party, to which a lot of people thought was insensitive, considering the fact that not only was it a national loss, he was also an active member of the church who had contributed so much to this parish. Although some sources say that they did have two services dedicated to him after his death. But from what we hear, this was the straw that broke the camel's back, because apparently this was not the only issue that the Iluyomades were having with the Redeemed Christian Church Governing Council. It was also rumored at some point that he was asked to step down for Pastor Adeboye's son to take his place. They've also had financial issues between the church and Pastor Iluyomade. So, sir, what is your opinion on this whole drama, especially as it is happening in the church?
Well, over time, for those of us who have done some work on churches, we've seen that, like every other organization, churches are now being plagued by politics and money. And for a church that is as big as the RCCG, that's Redeemed Christian Church of God, you can't run away from having such issues, because nobody will love the idea of pastoring what you can call a rural church or a small church. Everybody wants to pastor the big church. Nobody wants to go and start planting a church afresh where you are going to be on the streets looking for members, doing all of this. So it's understandable when a big arm like that of the RCCG comes under scrutiny and a lot of focus. It's understandable, because even in church, there is politics. So looking at what has happened with the Iluyomades, especially with Pastor Iluyomade, because the party's wife through was a subplot in all of this.
Yes.
You'll understand that there are things beyond the surface, beyond what we are being told, as per this whole drama. And it's good, at least from feelers we are getting from the panel that was set up to probe Pastor Iluyomade. Things are being said, and yes, the final report is not yet out, but information leaking out is providing an insight into the kind of drama going on within the RCCG and the City of David parish itself.
Okay. You said that the birthday party was like a subplot, but then the Iluyomades have had this way of life. Their lifestyle has been well known, that it's not like a normal redeemed church, or they're not like normal redeemed pastors whereby things have a particular order. So why do you think the said governing council turned a blind eye to all the happenings and decided to strike now?
Well, is it strike? I'm not sure that is the way I will describe it. I think what has happened is that the governing council listened to the voice of the people. That's what I'm going to say. Because when you look at the happenings and the dramatis personae in this, they are not young people, and they are not people who are not people of means. They have the wherewithal. They can afford a lot of things. For instance, the wife has been in limelight for a very long time.
Yeah.
For years now, she's been organizing a conference, the Arise Women Conference. They organize yearly walks. They do all of that. So, and she has contacts. She has connections that help her in funding those things. She's not just a nobody. But for every human being, there is always the other side. You can't just be spiritual. There must be a side to you that can even attract people to the church. And that's why you see a lot of churches that people now call new generation churches, the Pentecostal churches. You see that they are able to attract more people because they don't make it look as if the only essence of you being on earth is the spiritual aspect of life. They also make it look like there are other sides to human beings, and that includes the social side. Yes, as a person, I may disagree with that party that was thrown at that time. But come to think of it, the organization of that party did not begin the week Wigwe died. About Wigwe, the former MD of Access Bank Holdings. It didn't begin that week. It's been on for a very long time. And according to Pastor Iluyomade, even some of our friends had flown from the US, from the UK, even before that death occurred for that party. If you ask me, yes, maybe it could have been scaled down, but is that the best way to handle it? I think it's also good that we try to understand that in between that party and the death of Wigwe, there have been plots in the past, like you mentioned, to ensure that these people, they leave that parish. And it's obvious why other people want to occupy that seat. It's obvious. It's doing well. You can't pass on that street on the island and miss the church. And then the man is also overseeing what they call the Apapa family, which is a huge area that a lot of people will want to oversee. You have businesses that are there. Those businesses have their heads attending that church, and so they see it as a flourishing parish, a flourishing family area where they can also become popular and, assert some influence. So we need to understand that the politics is also there in terms of whatever has happened.
Okay. Well, like you said, it is a parish that people want to be in, pastor, oversee, and lead. But then, do you think it is fair that something like that should take place? Like you said, politics, which I understand. But then something like that shouldn't be taking place, seeing as this was a man who took the church as far as it has gone. For them to now, because now it is like they are tarnishing the image of both him and his wife, putting it out there. Everybody has a side, everybody has one thing to say. And then the image that they are painting is not so nice at all because this party was thrown or because of maybe they cannot account for funds. And if we want to date it back, this is not something that's happening for the first time. Because if we date it back, it has happened to Pastor Itwa Igodalo, who was the senior pastor of the Christ Church. It has also happened to Pastor Tony Rappo that was given the mantle for the Apapa family. And then in these cases, these were men that had gone so far in the business, taking the church, the mission to extreme heights, only for cases that should not even matter. In the case of Pastor Itwa now, they said on the basis that he was divorced. And then this happened 10 years after his divorce and 2 years into his recent marriage. So it doesn't make sense that things like that should be happening, and it is still happening till now. I feel like even as they are listening to the people, let's say they are listening to the people's cry on the Iluyomades, people are also talking about the fact that you can't just use these men of God. What happens to the other pastors? How are they seeing it? And then the things you now hear about the Redeemed Church, is it not redeemed this, redeemed that, after they have brought themselves so far to now let all these politics play dirty in their midst.
I'm happy you mentioned earlier cases, and it goes to confirm what I said about politicization of the church. People don't care how they do it. What they want is, let's see how I can place myself in a vantage position to be able to take over from this man. It's just pure fight for power. And like I said, a peep into what we are hearing from that panel has not shown that there has been any mismanagement of funds. It's curious. It's good, yes, what we always expect anywhere where you need to do a probe is to tell the person occupying the seat to step aside. That gives room for proper investigation. The person is not sitting in that office and providing you with only documents that you need. But from the feelers there, yes, that parish, the city of David, took a loan of 16.6 billion from Access Bank. They've paid back close to 8 billion. And what they were supposed to do in July, which is not still this month, it's still next month, is to pay 373.5 million interest on that loan. According to the fillers, 200 million had been deposited in the account that the bank is going to charge for that transaction. So leaving about 173.5 million to be put into it. So the fillers we have is nothing has happened to the money of the church. And then you now hear this argument that the buildings are in the names of the Iluyomades. Yes. It's not possible for you to go to a bank and say you want to use the name of a church to take a loan to finance a personal project. The books won't add up because you must present papers. You must present your documentation must be tight before loans are granted, especially to a non-governmental organization like that. Then your papers must be correct. You can't be sloppy about it. How do I go to a bank and say, come and give, say, my own company a loan, and then the documents I'm presenting to you to execute that contract is bearing my name, a personal name? It's not done anywhere. It's either I come to you with my name that I want to build a house and these are the documents I want to give you, or I come with that of the company. You can't even just do it. Some people believe that Nigeria is in such a bad state that you can present anything and you get away with it. But not in the case of bank, not even in the case of a bank like Access. It's going to be almost impossible. And then under the watch of RCCG, that can't even happen. Before you acquire property, before you do this, it must be in the name of the church. You can't go and take alone and be using it for personal. So that's so far from fillers. That panel has not found anything wrong with the Iluyomades. And added to that is the fact that we've had it over the weeks. Pastor Iluyomade has resigned from RCCG. They have moved on. No, he has not. He's still in the headquarters of RCCG in Ebutemeta. He's still there. Nothing has happened. So we just need to ensure that we don't get too excited when news of such nature, when they break. We need to be able to sift the facts from the fiction. But a lot of people are taking the fiction and leaving out the facts.
It's like everybody's praying for their downfall.
Something close to that. And like I said, it's still all politics. If you push somebody out of a seat and you occupy it, certainly your time will come to also leave that seat in such manner also, because you'll be pushed out.
So another question I have to ask is this said governing council, I want to believe that there's nothing they would do that would not go through. They have to inform the general overseer of this parish, or he has to be aware.
No.
Or he doesn't have to be aware.
The governing council does not report to the general overseer worldwide. Rather, Pastor Enoch Adejare will report to the governing council because it's sitting at the topmost. If you look at the structure of churches that are running based on due governance process, you can't find an individual taking a decision. It's the governing council. So even in terms of changing pastors, moving them around, you can only advise. Push that advice to the governing council, and then the governing council endorses. You can't, as a general overseer in a church that is operating due process, can't take that decision alone.
Okay.
Not anywhere.
Like you said, in terms of changing pastors, but then their Papa family has been known for standing on their own, in the sense that they do not really participate in audits, in transfer of pastors. It's not something that they are common with. A pastor can be there for 10 years, unlike a normal redeemed church. After 4 years, they move you. But in their Papa family, you can be there for a very long while.
Well, I don't know why that is. If it is so, I don't know why it is so. But there is something that you also call exceptions to the rules. That can be their own style of operating. Because some people will say, see, we can't afford for you to be changing our pastors
because this is what
as frequently as you want to with other people. Keep somebody here that you can trust for us. Because if you, like I said, it's a highbrow area. It's not just any area. Mm-hmm. It's a place where you have the shakers of Nigeria. You have businesses, you have individuals. Only the rich, the super rich can stay in that area. So if you have such people who want to have somebody that they can trust and deal with, then you don't change the head often. You leave the head to stay. And if that head is still doing well, I don't see a reason to do that. Yes,
because like we have stated, I don't know, the whole suspension of the Iluyomades, I don't think it was worth it.
If you look at it now, again, if the Iluyomades are still at the headquarters, national headquarters, then it means they weren't suspended. It means they were moved. But when you see a lot of reports, it's been talking about suspension. If you suspend somebody, you shouldn't see that person in church. Or if you see that person in church, the person will be sitting at the back with the congregation, not where you have the pastors. So we must always take our time to not only read, we must also be able to deduce. Even if that letter had told us it was suspension. But at least we've seen what those things that transpired after. The man is still at the national headquarters rendering a service to the church. So if you suspend somebody, that person sits at home. If he decides to come to church, he doesn't go to where the pastors are.
Okay.
So a lot of things are happening that we also need to understand that there is politics in the church. And those who are politicizing it will definitely be feeding the media, especially the social media, with what they want projected. Because that's the only way you can create a bad image for the person and get the person. I'm not saying they are saints. I'm just saying, see, let's get at facts. Let's work with concrete information, not hearsays. Just like I've said, over time now, you see that people have withdrawn from talking about fraud. Nobody is talking about the fact that they took the money of the church again. Nobody is talking about the fact that the houses or the buildings they have put up for the Redeemed Christian Church of God is registered in their name again. Nobody is talking about that because they've seen that all the things coming out of that probe panel, they are not saying so. They are just presenting the artifacts. It's just that people need to come to the realization that it is not in every association, every group that you play on geopolitics. Not even with the spiritual.
Well, earlier today I was reading a news blog or newspaper online that's, should I say, a member of this church participated in an interview whereby he stated something along the lines of they should not let Pastor Iluyomade resign with the way they are treating him and his wife and tarnishing their image. Now, this brings me to the question of how do other redeemed pastors, how do you think they would take something like this, in the sense that you have done so well for the church, taking the church to such highs, and then instead of being rewarded by your efforts, maybe taken to a different, should I say, top parish or whatever the case may be, I feel like this is a matter that could have been done underground, not splashing their name in the internet, whereby you're hearing hearsays, rumor this, rumor that. It could have all just be settled down instead of everybody has one side of the story to say and then there's bad picture being painted.
Yeah, but don't forget, it was not RCCG that released that letter. It was some people within the system. RCCG only gave the Iluyomades a letter. We are moving you to so and so place. And we are setting up a panel to look into your finances. That letter was handed over to them personally. Some people leaked it to the media. And it's part of what I've been saying, that politics has crept seriously into the church. You can't play such politics and not make people who are truly serving the church downcast. You are going to, over time, if care is not taken. And then, from the little I know about the gospel, it is really not about the position you are occupying. It is about the number of souls you are able to win. Mm-hmm. So for those who are pushing, who are fighting to get into what they call the big parishes, they should also know that some people built it to that point.
Yes.
And if they are not careful, they are going to undo what others have done. Because if you don't have the capacity for certain things, you can't push your way in. When you look at those who have occupied that seat in the past, you will see that when circumstances push them out, they are not doing badly. Mm-hmm. You mentioned true. Look at them. If those people only went in there to benefit from what others had built, they would not have been able to find their footing outside of that place. They wouldn't. It would have been so difficult for them to cope. So we need to also let these people understand that life in the church is not so much about the flamboyance that we see. It is about the spiritual, where people should be able to say, see, I'm coming to contribute to winning of souls. Because indeed that is what RCCG is preaching. And not to come and occupy a position because I believe I'll be getting things from here and there, especially from the big men who are in the church. You know?
Okay, well, what do you think the governing council, instead of transferring them, because these are people who, the pastor and the wife had built this church, and taking it as far as it has gone. So instead of transferring them maybe to, I don't know, should I say a lesser parish or to a different parish altogether, to set them aside for them to do the proper investigation they wanted to do, what do you think they should have done instead of a letter of transfer? Because a letter of transfer would definitely bring up topic for discussion as they are being investigated.
I'm not sure again if we can say that their movement now is punitive or is permanent. What they have done is step aside, let us investigate. When that investigation is concluded, we'll see what will happen. Nobody is talking of the man who has gone to replace them as a permanent replacement. That's Pastor Pandi. Nobody is talking about him as a permanent replacement.
Well, if we look at previous times,
yes,
it is the same type of hand, because when they moved Pastor Tony Rappo to London, they put somebody else there as permanent replacement till he comes back from his mission.
Yes.
And by the time he came back, that was it. And he just quietly left the church.
But this time around, don't forget that there are specific allegations that they spoke about. Probe into the finances, and then on the flip side, the propriety of that party thrown by Pastor Iluyomade. Those are specific. It's not as if they just moved. There are things on ground. So this is more like a probe and not a transfer that just came out of the blues.
Okay.
I hope you understand what I've just said now. You can say, we are moving you, we are transferring you, go to so and please go and work. It's different from, we need to look into your books because of this, and this. Go to the national headquarters in the interim and let this pastor replace you.
Okay, that's
so hopefully
I understand.
That will happen at the end of the day.
The aspect of the probing into financial books, I understand. But then the aspect of the propriety of the parties or the party that was thrown by the wife, what exactly do they want to do with that? Or are they trying to investigate? So what do they want to do?
That's why I said these things did not come in black and white. It was insinuated when it all started. Go back and read the letter that was given. You'll be able to deduce some of these things we are talking about. They are just there. They are floating. But the panel that was set up knows what it's supposed to do. That is, what's the standing of this parish financially? Is there anything that we can find that is unwholesome? So once you clear somebody, except they are not cleared. Once you clear somebody of the allegations against him, then there is it won't be right to tell that person you still have to leave your seat.
But we know how politics are being played.
That's what I'm saying.
So
the politics of it, it's the politics of it that RCCG now needs to deal with in order not to kill the morale of other pastors. Because even the person who is there now, in a few months, they'll start having issues with him. Because there are people who still want to take over. So it's going to be a continuous thing.
Until they can deal with the politics.
Yes, until they can deal with politics. Even if Pastor Adebo himself decides to go there and lead that parish, they will still have something against him. Because they see it as the most financially stable of all the parishes of the RCCG. Not even the national headquarters is. Not even the national headquarters. Not even the camp, not even the redeemed city is as solid as the city of David. So we've got to be careful in handling, so in the way we project these things to the public. We've got to be able to educate the public correctly on the issues surrounding the Iluyomades. So it's up to the pro panel now to give us their position. And I'll advise that unlike what we have with our government institutions, that pro panel should not keep us waiting for too long. People are eager to know. What did you find out? What did these people do any wrong? How much did they steal? If they didn't steal, what's your recommendation? Because people want to know. There are people, as you will know, who are also rooting for the Iluyomades. They don't want them to leave. And then you have those who want them to leave. So you can't satisfy one side to the detriment of the other. You must be able to balance it. And the only way you can balance it is by giving a report that clearly states what you have found out and which will clearly state your recommendations. You can't leave it hanging for too long. What some government organizations do, whether at the federal or state level, is that they believe that Nigerians have short memories. That after time,
They move on to another
they move on to another thing, so they'll forget. But unfortunately, like we have found out, in the last few years, the internet has made us not to forget things again. Because every time, whether it is on Facebook, or on Twitter, or Instagram, you are still going to get posts that will remind you of what you did 3 months ago, what you did 6 months ago, the things you read 1 year ago. You are still going to get it. So nobody is going to forget this easily. It's not just going to go away. It is going to stay with us. So we are waiting. We are waiting very eagerly for the reports. We won't let it rest. We'll keep discussing it. Because the church should not become a ground for politics. That's why you see some people, they say, see, no matter what you say to me, I still believe in the Catholic Church. I still believe in the Anglican Church. I believe in the Baptist Church, because they are not flamboyant. They don't take decisions that are not, they don't, their pastors don't become flamboyant, still the old time church. But the generation we have now, they are too fast. They are too demanding for them to be stereotyped into that kind of. So that's why people are looking for a pastor that they can relate with.
Yes.
That's why people like the Iluyomades, despite the fact that they're in their 60s, people still find them, okay, it's our pastor. It's
like a pastor.
Yes, a cut between the old and the Gen Zs and the new. So they are there. They like them. When you see Pastor Iluyomade, both the two of them dress, you can see that they are looking good. They are representing the church well. They are unlike the old pastors who with their white collar looking ragged, dirty, and all the rest. So it's a good thing that RCCG should let us know, and on time too, the outcome of that probe.
Well, it was lovely to have heard your thoughts. I don't know if there's anything you want to round up and say to the audience.
Well, still the same thing. Like I've said, we want that report out. And please don't politicize the church. Let the church grow.
We hope.
Let it grow.
We hope. Because it's the same people that we see in our day-to-day lives that are still in the churches, that are still in these governing councils, and that will still play the same politics that they are accusing the government of.
Yes, and that's exactly why we say that the fact that you have a Matthew or a Philip or a John as your president or governor does not mean that it's going to run a good government. It's not in the name, it's in the individuals. And it's the same thing that is playing out in the church. So we should allow politics to be played by politicians and leave the spiritual to those who are spiritually inclined.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you have heard it from Mr. Dotun. Let politics be played by politicians. And by the time we have updates, when the panel has released, the judgment case, I'll definitely be back to give you the updated version on the Iluyomade's case.
We'll be the first to get it.
Yes, definitely. Until then, I'll see you on the next edition. If you have not subscribed, subscribe. I look forward to reading your comments, like and share. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.